The Front Row Show does not reflect the views of Utah State Athletics, or its affiliates.
Excuse me, what the hell's going on out here?
I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Stick this in your trophy case.
What's up, Aggie fans? Welcome to another episode of the Front Row Show. As you can tell, we're not that stoked today, but you know what? We're going to try and be strong, and we're going to move on. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Matt Sonnenberg.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Jeff Browning. Social media is the best way to be a front rower, so interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Check out our website. I really don't want to talk about this game. It's just depressing. There's so many depressing things to talk about.
Basically, this game felt like one of those cases of everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
And
more.
did.
And it kind of did. I mean, there's losing a game, and then there's losing a cornerstone to your football season, and both happened. And I can't imagine. I mean, I guess there could theoretically have been a worse outcome, but really, like this, going in, you had to have thought, this is as bad as it could get, and it got that bad.
Okay, I'm just going to get this out of the way, because when you look at this game, I think you actually do have to give credit to BYU. I think they came in, they executed their game plan, they did what they needed to do to come out of Romney Stadium with a win. Chucky Keaton going down, yeah, that's a big deal. It changes the complexion of the game, but they still remained strong to what they wanted to do, and you know what? It was almost to me like they said, we know you're going to play the run, so we're going to dare Taysom Hill to throw, and we're going to trust our defense that if he makes mistakes, that they can stop Utah State. And sadly, it happened.
Now, to play devil's advocate in this one, I think 100% this is not at all BYU executing a perfect game plan for what they came to the table.
They weren't perfect.
But I really don't think, I mean, the fact of the matter is Chucky goes down middle of the first quarter. From that point on, our offense just struggled to move the ball. Now, credit to them on their defense, but we were not playing our best players on offense for that game.
Well,
I
here's
that.
one point to that. Craig Harrison put up more points on that BYU defense than Chucky did last year. So, I mean, it's safe to think that with Chucky in there full game, we would have put up a fair share of points.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a runaway victory for USU because, like you said, Jeff, BYU played well. They had a good game plan. They made a huge play on the first play from scrimmage to just grab some momentum, and it would have been an uphill battle for the Aggies regardless. Now, I think it's an uphill battle that USU was very capable of making with a healthy Chucky Keaton. Sure. Take him out of the picture, and it just kind of seemed like the whole mentality changed.
Well, I have never been in a stadium that just had, it was like ghosts. Like the life was just sucked out of everything in that stadium. Even though it felt like it was just a blowout and BYU was just running away from it, even their fans weren't really into it. It's like all the fun was taken out of football for that evening.
Well, the fact is how can you feel really proud about a hard-fought victory in that circumstances? Yeah, credit them. They won the game. They won on the points. But the fact of the matter is we were, I mean, literally the Achilles tendon of our team had basically been severed, and we're trying to patch things together at that point. For my point, you know, our defense played stellar, but they were also on the field, I think, a lot more than they would have been had Chucky Keaton been present.
Well, and it was the same big plays in the secondary that we've seen teams exploit before. Because if you look at the stats in this game, it's pretty close. It's not as far-fetched as it felt like on the field. I mean, we had more rushing yards than them. We had a better third down conversion percentage. We had the time of possession, but we lost it in turnovers.
Yeah, and they also had a lot more explosive plays than us.
They did.
I mean, that's going to come into that third down percentage thing, is that they had less third downs to play with.
Yep.
You know, and it was just a rough game in every way, shape, and form, and I mean, all you can do at this point is you got to mourn, but you got to move on.
Well,
that's a good point, because you know what? Here's the thing. The Aggies are still undefeated in Mountain West Conference play. And I mean, you look at it, all you really need to almost wrap up a berth in that Mountain West Championship game is one big win this coming Saturday against Boise State.
This is the game that, I mean, yes, it would have been nice to beat Utah. It would have been nice to beat USC, BYU. But when you look at where this program is going and establishing itself as a Mountain West power, to do that, you got to beat the top dog. And for so long, that has been the Broncos of Boise State. They come into town this Saturday, like you said, and it's the whiteout game. It could potentially be a program-defining game.
Yeah, I mean,
let's break it down.
Like, really, you think about it, for as devastating as last Friday is, and as heartbroken as everybody is to see Chucky Keaton go down, for how funny he is to watch as a football player, there is still a whole lot on the line. Like, the excitement is very much there. And it went from being a game that everyone's thinking, all right, we should win this. You know, we got him at home. We got the upper hand, to, all right, we got ourselves a fight. We got to climb out of this hole. We got to show what the rest of our team is made of. You know, Matt Wells made a point after the game to stress that this team isn't just one guy. And that's what we've got to prove now. And you know what? Who knows what a whole week of practice will do for Craig Harrison. I know it's like been out there that there might be discussion. We'll get to that in a minute, but I think Craig Harrison is going to be the guy. And, you know, who knows what he's made of? Who's seen Craig Harrison really with the pressure on him in a situation like this? It could get interesting, but the main thing is that we've got him at home. It is the whiteout game. The atmosphere should be off the freaking hook. And this is the big one for essentially conference supremacy.
Well, and I think that's one of the big things to remember is the fact of the matter is we can drop games in our conference schedule and still be in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. As long as we are losing to teams that have 2 or more losses on their schedule already, we're going to be in good shape. Boise is not going to be one of those teams. This is an absolute must-win for us to be able to make it to that championship game. If we do end up dropping something way down the schedule, say to a Hawaii, a UNLV, obviously games that I don't see us losing still, we do have a little bit of cushion in that. This game is paramount in us being able to make things work.
Well, and you look at Boise State coming in. The strength of their team this year is their offense, led by quarterback Joe Southwick. He has the creepiest mustache I have ever seen. It's disgusting. But they are the 17th ranked scoring offense in the country. They're putting up close to 40 points per game. They're a dangerous team that can exploit mistakes if you make them. So I looked this up because I was kind of bored today at work, and Utah State has given up 116 points so far this year. 61 of those have come on drives or plays with a pass play of 25 yards or more. It's paramount that our secondary lock down and not allow a quarterback like Southwick time to exploit those mistakes.
I'm going to one-up that.
Okay.
I think for the rest of this season, it's paramount that our entire defense lock down.
Word.
That, going into this year, we knew was the strength of our team. And now more than ever, the pressure is on them to dominate. Not just get stops. We need them causing turnovers. We need
that was going to be my point. They need the
offense
turnovers.
more opportunities because the offense is going to need more opportunities. We're down Chucky Keaton and Joe Hill, but the wide receivers are still playing well. We've got a pocket passing quarterback that's going to be in the mix, hopefully getting them the ball downfield. And Joey DiMartino has still been playing really well.
And
but
not just Joey DiMartino. Robert Marshall's actually able to come to make some noise at that second running back position in there.
Yeah. So it's going to be on the defense. And I think, look, if this team is a Mountain West championship caliber team, and I think they are, even moving forward without Chucky Keaton, having,
they're the best defense in the conference.
I agree. I think they are the best defense. And if we really are made of that, it is on the defense to show it. Like they always say, offense wins games, but defense wins championships. It was never more apparent than last season. The offense was great for the most part, but our defense is what made Utah State football so dominant. And now it is showtime, boys. Let's show what you're made of. You've got your biggest task and in the biggest game ahead of you. Now it's just on you to make it happen.
What are the keys for you guys, for Utah State, to win this game?
The big plays. You got to stop them. You can't give those up. You've also got to, maintain that run coverage that has made the USU defense so great.
Mine's going to be focus. The fact of the matter is you're going to be coming in. There is a lot on the line, and it's easy for that to get to your head. There's a lot of baggage that could be brought into this game. There's a lot of outside influences that could be really affecting the way that these kids go into the game and are playing. I trust every single player on this team to fulfill their own personal responsibilities. I mean, it goes back to the Gary Anderson era that's saying players make plays. I trust our kids to do that. It's just a matter of everyone standing up simultaneously and doing it. So it's a matter, I guess, a rebound from the emotions that the last week may have brought in, being able to cleanly wash your hands of that and saying, know what, we're not going to let that affect us anymore, and everyone coming out and playing the game that we know how to play. And to tell you what, just from the look at some of the players on that sideline at the end of the BYU game, I was watching Connor Williams and DJ Talavea specifically, and Boise's going to have some trouble. Like, those two were pissed.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing. I think there's one player in particular that is going to be pretty vocal in rallying the troops and trying to keep guys with their heads up and motivated. I think that guy is going to be Chucky Keaton.
No.
Yeah.
This is a guy who is proud to be an Aggie, all right? He loves it here. He's got to have a point of pride of what he's been able to do here. And you know what? He knows that this team has helped him have the high profile that he has.
Yeah.
He's not going to let them go and get down and let a season go to the wayside because, he had one knee injury.
Yeah, no, I was going to say my key for this game is a quick start by this Utah State team. I don't care if it comes on special teams, defense, offense, whatever. I don't think you want to get in a position where you are playing from behind. You have to chase Boise State. If we can start fast, if we have some momentum, have the lead, I think that crowd is just going to go berserk. And I mean, it will be the great elixir for this team and kind of bear them up.
And how great would it be to come out and get that quick start and have Boise suddenly scratching their heads thinking,
Going, huh?
Oh, crap, how do we stop this Harrison kid?
I think some people who are listening to this podcast are just wondering why we have not talked about the quarterback battle that Matt Wells has said is going on. Well, we're going to do that now.
Yeah.
Matt Wells announced that Craig Harrison and Daryl Garrettson, who was a pretty highly touted recruit from Arizona. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year there. He decommitted from San Jose State, came to Utah State. Kid's a gunslinger. Those two are going to battle it out. Thoughts on the battle and who ultimately will it be?
I think it's a big deal that Garrettson's even in the equation at this point because it speaks a lot to who he is going to be in our future. I mean, he's been traveling with the team. People have really been saying he's been out getting experience, and you watch him on the sideline, it looks like he's got a head on his shoulders and knows what's going on.
Yeah.
That being said, I look at Matt Wells right now playing for the 2015, 16, and 17 seasons as well as for this season, and putting Garrettson in, while it may give us maybe a slight edge in what's going to be going on for this season, I don't necessarily see it being as what's going to be able to affect the program for the best in the long run.
See, I think you're at the point where if you have the chance to win the Mountain West Conference Championship, you got to do it. Like, Garrettson can redshirt next year if needs be. I think you got to do it. If Garrettson is the best option, if he's better than Craig Harrison, put him in there. Let him do it. Now, I don't care who it is. I just want whoever is best at running the system, running the offense, and who gives us the best chance to win, whether that be Craig Harrison or Daryl Garrettson.
My take on that is that I think Harrison's going to be the guy. When, like you said, running the system, he's in his second year of doing it. You know, he's at least seen those snaps, albeit in garbage time. He's seen them and at least gotten familiar with the speed of a live college football game. Whereas Garrettson is a true freshman who, a lot of times in camp, looked quite a bit behind. Now, not to say he didn't show flashes.
He's got an arm
because he did.
Oh my gosh,
this kid could turn out to be a very, very good football player. And it's probably fair to assume that he's made a decent amount of progress since we last saw him in fall camp, because that's about 2 months ago at this point, it feels like. I just think that Harrison is likely going to be the guy. And look, if Garrettson does somehow take control of that battle over the course of this week and win that job, he had to have done something very impressive, and there should be a lot of cause for excitement if that's the case. And if that does happen, I'll be freaking out. I mean, it'll be cool to see a packed house rally around the new kid, because it's just kind of fun to see those other guys come in and do well. And let's also not forget, we've lost Chucky before, And
Yeah.
all we
Yeah.
did after that was just rail off win after win after win en route to a
that's a
bowl
good
game.
point.
Now, like I said, still going to be an uphill battle versus Boise. And I think with the quality of their defense, especially, that's what makes Harrison kind of maybe the obvious choice. But it's at least going to be interesting. And who knows what a whole week of running with the first team will do for him.
So, sub-question. If whoever the starter is in this game, let's say it's Craig Harrison, if he struggles in this game, do you go with Garrettson for the rest of the year, or considering the opponents we are playing, do you just ride it out?
The fact of the matter is there's not going to be a lot of teams for the rest of our season who are going to be able to move the ball against us until maybe Wyoming. If
Wyoming will be tough.
Depends on what Smith has been able to produce for the end of the season. He's had been down for the past couple weeks for some reason. Just not as
he's good enough to bounce back.
But yeah,
though.
that
kid's the real deal.
He should be able to bounce up after that. I would say that whoever plays this week should finish the season out for us.
I kind of feel the same way. And it's one of those things that you just never know. Who knows? Maybe Harrison will get out there and won't progress after first team reps, and maybe Garrettson will be right behind him, kind of deserving of that chance. If Garrettson gives you the best chance to win, red shirt doesn't matter. You can do that some other time, next year behind Chucky when he's back. But if Garrettson gives you the best chance, you do it. And here's the thing. We can still suffer a tough loss here or there. We can lose to Boise. We can lose to Wyoming. And as long as we win the rest of our games, which we absolutely should win with our defense,
Oh, yeah.
we're still bowl eligible. Now, chances are we might be going to Boise for a third year in a row for the bowl game.
Take it.
But
I'd take it.
Boise was a great time.
Yeah, if you've been there the last 2 years, it was a blast. And just think back to 3 years ago.
Oh,
or even
gosh.
2 years ago, where we finished the season 7-5, bowl eligible, going to a bowl game, and this was so monumental for Utah State. This was incredible, turning point in the program. Now we're staring at a potential disaster season in the face that still very well could end up at 7-5 as almost a worst case scenario in our disaster season. And we could still be going to a bowl game for a third year in a row in a disaster year. That speaks volumes about where we are. And you know what? It's going to be exciting now because what if we finish 8-4? That means we pulled off the big win somewhere along the line. What if we still finish 9-3? Then
That still could happen.
Then
that's
Craig
a real
Harrison is getting
possibility.
hoisted down Main Street on this guy's shoulders.
See, here's the thing. I think we have the players, and I think there is a certain level of accountability they took after the BYU loss. Because you watched their faces on the sidelines, and they were stunned, but then there was this anger of, we won't let this happen. Not to us, not to our fans, ever again. I still think it's possible. They can win every game.
You know what? And along with that mentality of this isn't us, we're not going to let this happen anymore, I hope USU fans
Amen.
have that same mentality. Because
Amen.
I'll tell you what, if you saw me after that game, I was pissed. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just angry. I yelled at one BYU fan that was talking smack on the way out because he shouldn't have been. And I was very angry. I went and ate some nachos at Cafe Sabor to try and make my feelings feel better. And I went home and went to bed because I just wanted the day to be over. And does it sound like I'm still down in the dumps now? Hell no. I'm ready to get back on that horse and cheer the crap out of my Aggies because I think we still got a chance to do something special this year. Mini rant over.
Take that mentality, Aggie fans. Not to this team, not to us. Bring it against Boise Saturday night.
In other words, if you want to come get excited for the game, I'm going to be out there tailgating and getting prepared. And
it should be insane.
Just let it soak in. Get excited. And don't view this as the end of the world. View this as a change of course that we're still going to find land.
All right, guys. I've been talking about this one for a few weeks. We've tried to get onto it a couple times during our time here, but this is the first tangible time we have to really talk about something definitive for our basketball team. I am stoked about what we got coming up. Today was Mountain West Conference Basketball Media Days. We got our preseason polls coming out. Let's talk some basketball.
Finally,
What an
Season
idea.
2 basketball on the front row show.
So, for everybody out there who hasn't already heard, Utah State was picked to finish 5th in its inaugural season in the Mountain West. Thoughts? Good place?
That's right about where we should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could probably swap us and Boise at number 4 and not feel too uncomfortable with it. But the fact is they proved themselves.
I'm pretty sure Boise was number
We're
3.
number 3.
San Diego State's number 4.
See,
San Diego
that's
State.
the thing.
Ooh,
A program with a lot of prowess. But here's the thing. We're coming into the Mountain West after, a pretty shaky last season in the WAC, where our last 2 seasons in the WAC lost our opening game of the conference tournament. Yet we still get this respect going into this new league. And granted, the people voting, they know that we've had injuries and that we've had a lot of issues working against us that kept us from what would likely have been just continued WAC dominance like we saw for the bulk of our time in that conference. But still, they put us over one of their NCAA tournament teams from last year, Colorado State. Granted, they lost a lot, but still, I think that speaks to what they think of us as a team entering the league. And I think it's, something to be excited for, because I have a tough time imagining us finishing lower than 5th. So if we finish higher than that, we've exceeded expectations, which is a great start.
And the number one thing for me is 5th can be good enough for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament, which
especially
is all we've been begging for this kind of opportunity since I was born and not before, the chance to be in a multi-bid league, not just
for realsies too, not the WAC.
Not like the WAC that's like,
just
sometimes we'll give you
imploded.
two bids if the favorite champion loses in the championship game.
Now, for what it's worth, though, you go back to 2005, 2006, our first year in the WAC. I believe we were picked to finish 4th in the conference that year. We went ahead and exceeded expectations, finished 2nd. Not only that, the WAC at the time was still viewed as a 2-bid league, and with a championship game loss to Nevada in overtime on their home floor, which still, I will say, Nate Harris was fouled on that final layup attempt and should have gone to the line. But even with that loss, we did get an at-large bid. Now we're just in a better position of a more stable, more powerful conference, where if we do finish 2nd, we're getting in the dance.
And if you get the right wins, this is not just a 2-bid league. This is a 4 or 5 bid league,
which it has been the last couple of years.
You look, New Mexico was picked to win the Mountain West. UNLV and Boise State picked to finish 2 and 3. San Diego State was 4th. Then there's Utah State, but then you look after us: Colorado State, Wyoming, Fresno State, Nevada, Air Force. San Jose State was picked as the dead man walking. This is awesome.
That one's not a surprise. The one that really is kind of crazy to me is Nevada so low, because let's not forget that their last year in the WAC was kind of their farewell to a conference that they in many ways dominated for a long time. I am so excited. We had that run where USU came in and kind of took the throne from Nevada those last couple years. But even in that last season, the 2011-2012 basketball season,
it was a dogfight.
Nevada, they dominated the WAC for the most part that year, and then they struggled in the Mountain West. They had a lot of struggles in many ways. I think it was due to a whole lot of aspects, but it's just interesting to see how far they've fallen. But the Mountain West doesn't perceive Utah State to be down, which is
I think a big part of that, though, is the utmost respect everyone has for Stu Morrill.
No question. Absolutely no question. He's always going to field a team that is tough and is going to compete. You look at last year. We had a handful of really tough losses, but how many of them did we really get? How many of them were we never in the game?
New Mexico State, the one at La Tech, we got just destroyed.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Our whole team injured, and it was rare.
That is the whole thing about the season, though, is that you really don't know exactly how good this team really is because you never had the whole team. It didn't exist.
But on top of that, I think that's the one thing that you can really point to. I mean, we talked about it with our football program all the time about how stability is the reason that we can continue on past the Gary Anderson era. Stability is what not only Stu Morrill, but our players bring to the court this year, because we're returning so much experience onto this court. I mean, the fact of the matter is you're looking at a potential our centers, both Shaw and Stone really started stepping up to the table at the end of last year. Shaw's been predicted as one of the best centers in the nation coming in. God, who do you even play at our guard position? There's 5 guys who could stand up and take that role. And another year of experience under Marcel Davis's belt with Roland backing him up
my man
is going to
crush
be
on him.
crazy.
I can't resist talking about this. I know we're going to get into it deeper in the basketball previews, but
Yeah.
man, look at that 1 through 3. All right, point guard, you have Marcel Davis, who being healthy in a full off season, I think he is going to be spectacular.
You mean having 2 healthy ankles makes a difference?
Right.
Who knew?
But even behind him, Taneo Roland finished last year very strong.
Solid.
He really came on
Yeah.
as the year wrapped up last year, and I think he's going to be a very, very solid option off the bench. And then you get to the wings, and holy
What
cow.
do you do? Like, seriously.
You got Medlin, you got Butterfield, you got Berger, you got Jalen Moore, who I think is going to be in the mix. I don't see him redshirting this
he's
year.
not redshirting.
It's just it's an impressive setup we've got going there. The bigs, it gets a little bit shaky with Ben Clifford's injury.
Yeah.
I think Ben would have been the logical starter in that position, and I've expressed my man crush on Ben Clifford and his stats last year as a starter, how admirable they were, which some people overlook for whatever reason.
Well,
His
don't
last
forget-
few games, like the game that he actually led the team in scoring for, like, he was unstoppable.
The last game of the year, what did he have? Like 22 points?
I think 21. The
was
last
awesome.
the last two games of last season were Ben Clifford's 2 highest scoring games of his career.
Yeah.
I think he had 17 points in one of them, 21 in the other. And I mean, that's on top of all the hustle and rebounding that he does. He is maybe the best free throw shooting big man that we've seen here at USU.
Gary Wilkinson.
Gary Wilkinson was really good. I think Clifford might have him beat.
I will say this, though. You have your low post scoring option in Shaw.
Yeah.
You just need that fourth, someone who's there, get rebounds, provide a physicalness down in that post, and you should be fine.
And the wonderful thing though is Clifford's proven not only he is at least a legitimate scoring threat in some ways, but he can stretch the court. He has an outside shot
Started
that's
hitting the three
really
ball.
going to be making people.
Is anyone else excited to see Sean Harris finally playing in Aggie uniform?
I'm
Yes.
hoping so.
Yes. Cannot wait to see Sean play. I mean, Sean needs to be the banger of a 4 that we need down there. He needs to be the get out of my way, I'm scoring this basket kind of power forward.
Gary
because
Wilkinson?
Gary was a center.
Gary was the 5.
And Gary had some finesse to his game. Gary could kind of do it all, and I think that's what made him great, because he would hit that mid-range jumper and really just kind of be an assassin from anywhere. Ben Clifford has not been a back-to-the-basket guy. He's more the mid-range scorer, and that's great. And from what we understand, Kyle Davis is a little bit of the mid-range power forward.
I think
Sean
Kyle Davis
Harris
could be a hustle
needs
player.
to go be the banger down there. And if he can do that, and if he can balance things out and ideally grab a stranglehold of that position, especially in Clifford's absence, that makes this team solid. And I guess you can't say Harris necessarily has experience, but he's been around this program for a year now.
Yeah.
He's going to know what to do when he gets out there. It might take a few lumps to really get adjusted to the speed of things, but that transition shouldn't be lengthy.
Well, and I know I've said this for a good couple of years, and it hasn't panned out the exact way we wanted, but for the first 10 years that Stu Morrill was coaching at this institution, 12 years maybe, he has eventually trimmed things down to a 7 to 8 man lineup. Not out of that's the way things belong best, but because out of necessity, because he did not have other players that deserved being, or at least had merited being on the court up to that point. This year, we could potentially be seeing a full 10-man rotation because every single spot has a backup that could come in and be able to perform to at least an adequate level. That is something that we have never seen in Stu Morrill's era. Injuries last year prevented it. We kind of saw a little couple flashes of it back in like 2009, 2010, but being able to say that who's our center? Well, we got a backup who can come and serve. Our 4 has 2. Our wings have 4. Our point guards have 2. I am so excited for this season.
And here's the thing. You look at that entire 10-man rotation. We basically broke them all down. Only 2 of them have yet to don an Aggie uniform. Jalen Moore and Sean Harris. So
and Jalen Moore has been groomed for this program too.
No question. And Sean's been a part of it for a whole year now.
Yep.
So Jalen Moore's been playing with the guys for years now, just not in the Aggie uniform, but
right.
And there's one thing we need to bring up. This kind of turned into a more of a basketball preview than we originally thought.
That's okay.
Which is great.
We will give you a full basketball preview later on the Front Row Show, but the new NCAA rules, guys, that allows this team a few extra practices and a few more days to get acclimated. This is a big deal.
This is absolutely huge. When I first saw this, my first thought was this helps Utah State maybe more than anybody else in the country, because how many years have we come in? It seems like practice starts usually started around like early to mid-October before. They have a bunch of practices in a short amount of time. The season comes before, the depth chart maybe has really been set, before a lot of guys are up to speed, and all of a sudden they're thrown in the fire, and you get a bad early season loss here or there.
You lose to EA Sports going on early into the season.
Yeah, you lose the exhibition to EA Sports.
What was it? Like Texas, what was that? Texas Corpus Christi that we lost to like 2 years ago?
Yes.
That was just
Texas
bad.
A&M Corpus Christi, the Morgan Grimm game, however, when he went off for like 21 points and 12 rebounds. But you can, I think with this, because it is such a knowledge-intensive system, there's so much to know and so much to learn on the fly. This gives 6 more practices to learn that. I think that is absolutely huge. And, maybe you have an exhibition game sooner now and getting a handful more practices after learning, all right, what did we struggle with? What do we need to work on? But the old format was 24 practices in 30 days leading up to your first game. Now it's 42 days to get in 30 practices. That's 6 more whole practices to go over everything, not to mention twice as many days off versus the old format, which, will put a lot less physical strain on guys' bodies. Hopefully won't see, it's kind of been a problem a lot of times with Stu Morrill big men where these guys' feet have struggled. Nate Bendall had it. Brady Jardine's foot caused him problems and ended his career. Hopefully we can avoid that now. Give him a little more rest, an ample day off or 2 here and there. Gosh, this is going to be
It's fun to have
awesome
basketball
for
back.
Aggie basketball.
Well, and we were talking about it earlier that you can really see how the experience of playing within Stu Morrill's basketball system can pay dividends off for players. And,
Yeah.
I mean, even to the specific moment where you can say, hey, this is the game where Keyshawn Reed got it, or this is the game where whatever player, and then you can
where
also,
Stephen Thornton finally got
where
it.
Stephen Thornton got it, and then he's like, I got it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm out of here. No, but like you get that kind of thing, and then you see players who come in and they do their own thing for a good couple games, and then you never see them progress and never see them move forward, and you can watch the caliber of athlete that Stu Morrill recruits into his program, and as soon as they go, wait a minute. Keyshawn Reed is still my favorite example of this, because there was a game that I think it was 2 or 3 games into the season where you watched him go off for 5 or 6 dunks in one game because he finally went, wait a minute, my coach has designed offense around getting me to throw the ball through the hoop, and he embraced that, and things went nuts. As soon as these players do that, we're going to watch them go crazy, and as we said, only 2 of them have not already been in the system for a year enough to be able to buy into that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that early on in the year, rather than having to play a game and then hoping you can get in as many practices to get more up to speed, I think more we're going to see the Aggies. There will still be adjustment periods. There's going to be some early season lumps. I don't think as many. I think rather than it seems like traditionally Stu's teams really turn that corner in early January-ish, around the start of conference play. I think now we could be seeing that a lot more often in like mid-December, which is a big deal, especially if you can just be that much better during your non-conference schedule. And if we're better along the way until that corner's fully turned, great. But if we can just get 1 or 2 more big wins in that non-conference, especially this year when the non-conference schedule is great, it is going to be absolutely huge.
So as a final thought to wrapping up our kind of
Our mini
early
preview.
our
It wasn't
mini
supposed
early
to be that
preview.
way, but
It's impossible not to get excited. I mean,
Yeah,
come on. It's
we-
Aggie basketball. Who doesn't love it?
We're going into, as we said, we are picked 5th, which is great. We're going to be playing home and homes with some of the elite programs in the nation this year,
yes.
which means wins on the road are going to be hard to come by. I believe our program's going to be able to pull some of them off, but they're going to be rough, which means we need our home court advantage at elite levels. we've watched the spectrum kind of have its ups and downs over the past few years, and granted, those come with losses. Those come with people not getting exactly what they expect out of the program. It comes with when you have people who didn't watch us lose in the spectrum for 2 seasons, and all of a sudden we lose more in one season than we have in the previous 4 combined. People tend to get a little wonky on things. But our home court advantage is fabled in the nation, and it's time for it to come back and make sure that we do not lose home games.
And here's the thing, with the prestige of the Mountain West Conference nationwide, the eyes of the nation, the TV cameras, are going to be in the spectrum to watch it.
And hey, take it to the show. Okay? We've got a upstart group of nobodies out of San Diego State claiming that they're going to be able to come in and they have the better student section. We have head-to-head matchup with them this year. Time to put them to shame.
All right, I'll just have one quick note on that. All right, I was a part of some of the glory years of the Spectrum on Wheels.
Really?
I was there in Reno in 2009, and I was there in Vegas in 2011. In my opinion, the 2 greatest showings, well, at least in my day of the Spectrum on Wheels, I've seen some pictures of Anaheim in 2005, and that was something else, just in pictures. But I'll say this, the Spectrum on Wheels, from everything I've seen, when Utah State has a championship caliber team, is mind-blowing. I'll never forget that 2009 WAC tournament when we all traveled to Reno, and after that when USU goes on a run and the other team calls a timeout, the Spectrum on Wheels just lost their minds, and all of press row turned around, cameras pointed at the Aggie student section, because they all realized this is something unbelievable going on behind us that these guys have going on. 2012, after we lost in the WAC tournament first round, me and some of my friends went to the Mountain West Championship game while we were still down in Vegas. San Diego State, nationally ranked program. They were having a great year. Should have had just an unbelievable showing from the show. Couldn't hear a single thing from them. They were terrible. The show's a joke. Do not believe any of the hype. None of it's real.
There we go. The gauntlet's been thrown. And God, we don't even have anything to prove at this point.
The battle
has been settled. But the fact of the matter is we need that home court advantage. And like we've been talking about before, come, be clever. We're going to bang-a-rang chant started up this year.
Oh, my gosh. Please
That's
make it
official.
happen, Lance.
So we're gonna be doing that. Hey, we have the power to really affect the way things go. You think that you can affect things during a football game? Just wait to see what you can do to a player when he's 3 feet in front of you. It's going to be awesome. Let's make these things happen.
It's that part in the show where there's a sheet with tweets. I don't know. I guess we'll call it the tweet sheet.
Washington Aggie fan tweets in. He says, will Boise State's loss in Merlin Olsen Field at Romney Stadium finally push Chris Peterson to making the coaching jump?
I like your attitude, first off, and I'm going to say no. I don't think that's going to be what causes it. But, man, it's just more and more starting to feel like he's got to make that jump sooner or later, right?
I'll put it this way. I don't think that their loss to us would necessarily do it, but I think USC's loss to ASU will. Yeah. Predictions. They're fun.
There you go.
Chris tweets in, he says, what's the future of wins and losses with Chucky out for the rest of the year? I said this before. I still think they have a chance to win every single game. They have the defense. If the quarterback steps up, whoever it is, they can win every game this year. They really can.
I think we can. If we're asking for actual predictions, if I'm trying to separate myself entirely and look at it completely non-biasedly, I would say it will be a 4-2 stretch over these final 6.
Who are the 2 losses to?
Boise State and Wyoming.
Really? 2 losses at home.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Goodness knows we're not losing any of these games on the road. No, if we lose any games for the rest of the season, it's going to be at home. I am predicting a 5-1.
Okay. Justin tweets and he says, any chance of a medical red shirt for Chucky this year?
This is one thing I've been really curious about.
Because I know you've been talking about this
within the
thing.
Within the bounds of a normal medical red shirt, no. But this is his second time that he'll have basically missed half a season due to injury, and I feel like at some point the NCAA looks at that, and especially if a guy hasn't used a red shirt, let him have his 5 years to play for. If one of those was completely gone and it's essentially becoming 4 years to play 3, why not give him a year back? I don't know how the NCAA is going to handle it. I don't know if they'll even look at it. And if they did, it's going to be up to their discretion, which is usually wildly inconsistent. That's why I'm not getting my hopes up, but I feel like it's the right thing to do.
Well, is there precedent for that? I mean, are we aware of any circumstances where that kind of thing has happened in the past?
I'm not aware
This
of
is
any.
the thing. I'm not totally sure because
But at that point, they are wildly inconsistent.
Exactly.
Things.
That's the thing. So I'm trying to think of an example, but all right. When did BJ Larson miss significant time with injury? Can anyone remember that?
Nope.
I should remember. but
Neither
don't.
can I. But he just got a year granted back. I looked on the roster. He's now listed as a junior. Same with Zach Vigil. I mean, I know Zach Vigil missed like the final 8 games of a season one year. It might have even been 9, which in that case is a no-brainer. But it just seems like it would be the right thing to do. And maybe I'll make that a little task, is to dive into the history books and see if I can find somebody with a case of this.
Now, here's the real question, is if we make it to a championship game and a bowl game this season, that's going to be bordering on percentages for him. If we can...
Good point.
If we're
No, it's still
Does
not
that
going
not
to push
count?
us below the 30. It does count, but still he played in six games
per
out of
games,
14.
or does it count as far as eligible time before the injury? Because I don't know how it works out.
It's games played. So the general rule is, with a medical red shirt, if you have played in 30% or less of your team's games for the season,
You'll get it.
for suffering a season-ending injury and have not redshirted in the past, it's like a slam dunk. But in the case of 6 out of 14, that's still
42%.
42.8%.
But especially if they're
it's-
going into what you considered, I mean, if they can merge the time between 2 seasons, say he's missed a year of total time due to injury, that still plays to his advantage.
The only thing I'll say with that, though, is that he did make an appearance in the bowl game against Ohio. I don't know if that skews that.
It's still
But-
after missing 4 games.
It is. I'm just
4 or
saying
5
he
games.
did play
4
again that
games.
year.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but I mean, you still look at it. So he's going to miss 6 games this year. He missed 4 that year.
It's 10.
That's a season's worth.
Yeah.
Give the kid his year.
So basically, what we arrive
Give
at
Utah
is
State its
we,
Chucky.
We pray that the NCAA continues to be just
Themselves.
an organization that no one can understand.
We want to pray for Chucky and also have our arms around Chucky for 2 more years.
Yes.
I'm just throwing
Keep him
out
here.
Chucky hashtags left and right.
Todd Alder tweets in. He says, "You guys watched most of fall camp." Yes, we did. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the 3 quarterback options at this point? I guess he's throwing Jeff Manning into the picture.
Manning is tall.
Manning's tall and a sneaky good runner, actually. He recognizes good times to scramble, not unlike Adam Kennedy. Kennedy was good at recognizing run. Fun fact about that 2011 season, Adam Kennedy averaged more yards per rush than Chucky Keaton.
Are you surprised that Wells did not name Manning in the quarterback battle?
No,
Yes and no for me.
he's tended to throw the ball into linemen a whole lot. Not
Yeah.
unlike the way you saw Harrison doing this week, but you can just 100% write that off to the fact that he was in a completely foreign situation. But he wasn't doing it in practice either.
So what are the strengths and weaknesses?
I mean, Jeff Manning, arm strength. Weakness, it seems like consistency and accuracy. Garrettson, his weakness is his size. He's really short.
And his experience.
And his experience. His strength is that he's got a good arm. I think he is at least a tad bit more accurate than Manning, but I don't think he throws it as hard.
And he's a scrambler.
and
He's
little
he's
bit.
supposed to have legs underneath him.
And then with Harrison, I think it's I don't even know what to peg as a strength or a weakness for him, really. I think he's just kind of
He's an enigma.
he's a backup quarterback is what he is. And not the Adam Kennedy variety. But yeah, I will say I am a little surprised that Manning hasn't been mentioned, because watching fall camp, I didn't feel that he and Garrettson were all that off from each other. It's definitely not enough so that one of them's in the conversation and the other is completely not. And really, to that same respect, I felt Harrison wasn't, leaps and bounds ahead of them. He was ahead of them, but not leaps and bounds.
And the depth chart showed that there was a pretty tight contended race for not only the 2 spot, but for the 3 spot as far as quarterbacks go.
Yeah.
Fact of the matter is we need someone to step up. And whoever ends up getting the play calling this week needs to come up and be able to play to their full extent.
Jason Snow tweets in. He says, "Do we have the power to ground and pound like we did with Turbin, and could that help save our offense without Chucky?"
I'm going to say yes. And we have not seen our big bruising backs come in, and he even really had a lot of the calls given to him in big stand-up times. It was interesting when you actually watched Kennedy Williams start getting some calls in this last game to actually run the ball. When you had him playing opposite Joey DiMartino and Robert Marshall, no, it's obviously not going to be 3 NFL caliber backs in the field there. But in my mind, it was very reminiscent of having Williams, Smith, and Turbin in that backfield. Roberts being our Turbin character, DiMartino being our Smith, and Williams being, our Williams. So I think that run game could take a step up, and they're going to have to shoulder some extra load.
I'll say this about the run game. I think we need to summon maybe a little bit. This is going to sound crazy coming from me. Maybe a little bit of that last year of Dave Baldwin offense. Now,
What?
I don't know who will fill the Taron Lloyd role, but do you remember when we would throw out our 5 starting O linemen, DJ Tialavea and Taron Lloyd, with Robert Turbin running behind them?
Oh, yeah.
It was basically automatic yards. And if all of a sudden you've got a thundering back like Robert Marshall, or a kind of can sort of do it all guy, he's shifty and speedy and powerful, and Joey D, I like the possibilities of just kind of, if we need to, let's go Operation Ground and Pound.
It's like a battalion of
and
tanks
run it in
coming
there. I mean,
through.
look, that's the bulk of that same offensive line is bigger, stronger, more experienced, as is DJ Tialavea. Do I think Keegan Anderson is going to be the run blocker that Taron Lloyd was? No. But, maybe Derek Keller, a guy who hasn't seen a lot of time, maybe he's got some better size. Maybe he could fill that role. Maybe,
Jefferson Court could come in.
Maybe Jefferson Court comes in. Maybe Logan Malifoe changes his number and goes out and just starts plowing guys wearing a tight end's number. I don't know, but it's at least something I think we should really consider.
Derek tweets in. He says, "Are there any of the guys looking at the CFL? I guess if they don't make the NFL, do they look at the CFL as a..."
Well, obviously your number one choice happens to be
Connor Williams,
who
already been drafted.
already is in the CFL. Yes.
Utah State's had good success with the CFL. You look at Anthony Calaveo and then Chris Randall, too.
Is he really rocking it up there?
Yeah, Randall's
I did
up
not know
there.
that. I'm not up to speed with the CFL and who's up there, but I would think there's a lot of guys on this roster that if they wanted to pursue professional football in some capacity, and it's not the NFL that's in their future, I would think if they wanted to, a lot of them could go CFL. It's just, I think it's one of those things where not a lot of guys want to go that route. They're getting degrees. They might have families. They don't want to relocate to Canada, although I hear it's lovely there. But
Yeah.
And they like hockey.
No, I was waiting for that. No, I really think we have a lot of players on the field right now with the caliber to play the ball professionally in some degree. Whether that's in the CFL or the Arena Football League or a couple other options, you will see multiple guys on these squads pursuing professional careers, even if it's outside the NFL.
Tim Hansen tweets in. He says, now what are the realistic expectations for the rest of the season? Not optimistic, but realistic. You've kind of already given your take on that, so yeah. I'll go with mine. I'll go with 5-1. I really think that, because I think if we lose to Boise State, that's fine. I don't think we'll lose to Wyoming. I mean, Texas State gave Wyoming a serious run for their money, and we saw what we did to Texas State last year. Now, granted, I know Chucky Keaton was there, but even still, I feel that Wyoming game here in Logan, I still feel we should be favored quite handily in that game. And then you look at UNLV, New Mexico. I mean, Hawaii. Ugh, no way. So I go 5-1.
Well, the fact of the matter is I really, outside Boise, we don't have an offense we're going to go up against for the rest of the season, aside from Wyoming, that's going to be able to score on this defense.
That is
and
a concern. I get that.
By and large, the reason I'm willing to go 5-1 is because I think our defense is going to be able to hold things through for that.
I'll say this though, I honestly believe that while my prediction was 4-2, what I think my realistic prediction will be, I think we theoretically could go 6-0. Like, we beat Boise State. There's no reason to think we shouldn't steamroll just about everyone else.
Yeah.
But with that, there's also a chance we could struggle mightily against Boise State, in which case some of these other games get tougher. Wyoming gets a lot tougher, and one of these other teams could see an opportunity to step up and beat a very good team. But I still think that our worst case scenario for these final 6 games is 3-3, which still puts us bowl eligible.
Yep. No, we will be playing in a bowl game this year still, which is crazy to say, but we will be doing it. And I mean, it comes down to the fact that we, I guess part of this scheduling thing, we were so freaking out about it in the early season, saying these first 6 games were such a gauntlet for us, but it has turned into a very mixed blessing for us at this point with Chucky Keaton out, in that the last half of our season, we are playing the easiest 6 games of the year for us, God, I wish I would have been able to see what he could have done stat-wise through these last 6 games, though.
It would have
was
been
one of the top 10
unreal.
quarterbacks in the nation going through the difficult part of our schedule.
Yeah.
But no, I think it really is a blessing for us that when we're going to be struggling as a team because of injuries, we're going up against the softer part of our schedule.
Rob tweets in with the last question of the night, and it's actually a basketball question. We talked about basketball on the show. He's a little disappointed that we're not beating out other Mountain West teams for our recruits. We've had some commitments lately. And then also, how does adding Brian Green to the coaching staff affect this team?
Well, speaking of recruits, we got a new one this week from basketball.
Henry Bolton
from he's a back east kid.
Yeah,
we had a
Rhode
few
Island.
offers from around that area. Some quality programs.
Temple,
Old Dominion, Rhode Island. I mean, look, Rhode Island, that produced a top 5 draft pick, a little over a decade ago.
No
Old
slouch
Dominion's
at all.
been a good solid.
And ODU's been very solid. Yeah. So, I mean, these aren't bad programs. We beat them out for this kid, and Stu's known for getting on good talent early. And this could be another case of that.
Here's my thing. In talking with people around the state of Utah, if Jalen Moore had not committed to Utah State so early in his high school career, he guarantee would have been a 4-star prospect.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a lot of people, and this angers some people to hear this, there's a lot of people that think if Jalen Moore reaches his full potential, he will be the best basketball player in the state of Utah out of this class. And that includes Nick Emery, Eric Mika, guys like that.
Yeah.
They all think he is the best prospect out of all of them. They're more polished than Jalen Moore. No doubt.
Yeah, but his ceiling is just higher.
So you look at that, and Henry Bolton is good.
You can make the same case in a lot of respects for Marcel Davis.
I agree with
being
that.
Around that same level. Maybe not having the high caliber rating that Jalen might have garnered, but Marcel gained a lot of interest that a lot of people didn't know about because he committed so early.
Well, and you have that with a lot of the kids that Stu Morrill has grabbed. It's interesting because over the first decade or so of his career, and we were talking about this earlier, he based his success out of the JUCO ranks, mostly out of California. Only within the past couple years has he moved into recruiting freshmen into his program who have really been able to come in and shoulder loads. I mean, you watch that. That's the Ty Wesley era forward is when you watch that transition really be made to where he puts 4-year players into his program. He's grabbing them so early with this stuff now that people aren't willing to give him credit, saying he's been able to succeed at this. But his ability to develop talent is greater than anyone's within the state. And it's our first year in the Mountain West. Goodness, how do you expect? Do you expect us to be able to walk in and be like, "Oh, hey, by the way, every Mountain West prospect, we're new. Come join on with us instead."
Well, I mean,
give it a couple years.
You're not going to beat out UNLV. I mean, for kids who are at a 1-year stopover before they go to the NBA, it's Vegas. I mean, come on. I think with recruiting, with basketball, it's not who you're beating out for these kids. It's how they develop it and the type of players they turn into. Look at Damian Lillard at Weber State.
Yeah. To the second part of that question, Brian Green on the coaching staff, I absolutely love this. Talk about a guy that wasn't blessed with much athletic ability. He worked and fought and battled for everything that he had. And he did it on smarts. He did it on grit. He is, a recent throwback to the most recent era of monumental success the Utah State of basketball has had. What better a guy to bring on to try and light some fires in these kids?
He is fiery.
The fact that Brian Green is going to be coaching Spencer Butterfield, maybe the 2 toughest, grittiest players I've ever seen, it's just thrilling to think about.
Well, and it really comes down to that whole what's special about Utah State basketball is a coach who is willing to stick by a system. You bring another assistant coach who's willing, or grad assistant at this point, who's willing to come in and say, guys, let me talk to you about what this system can do for you. Brian Green did not shoot 50% from three in the years that he played just by going on the court and trying to make his own shots. He did it cutting hard off screens that were set by big men who knew what they were supposed to do. And it's a phenomenal way to run this system.
Or if it was against Hawaii, he'd shoot it from like 8 feet behind the line and drain
and just own everybody. Yeah. No, I am stoked. It is so funny to see, like, there are players through the years who I wish would come back and teach for and coach for this program. Brian Green, one of the top of my list, and I'm glad we've got him.
Thanks, everyone, for sending in your tweets, as always, and your questions. Make sure you send them any time of the week at USU Front Row, and we'll get them answered.
All right, everyone. Well, to close off today's program, we're all going to give a couple thoughts on what we got going on in life, or something that's, I spurred a couple extra thoughts for us for the evening. We got some last words coming on.
I'll start it off.
Go for it.
My last words, do not, under any circumstance, give up on this football team. They are more than Chucky Keaton. This is a football team, all right? And they are a damn good football team. So you be out there every Saturday cheering them on, especially this one for the whiteout, probably the biggest game of the year.
All right, my turn?
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
Do not, under any circumstances, give up on this football team. All right? They are more than just Chucky Keaton. Especially this week for the whiteout, you get out there and you show them what arms around and what we believe as far as that we know as Aggie fans is true.
Anyone want to guess what my last words are?
We'll tell you afterwards if we guessed it.
Do not, under any circumstances, give up on this football team. This is your team. They represent you. It is your job and your life to support them and give them the best crowd in the Mountain West. This is what champions are made of and what championship programs are all about. Saturday night, it is on.
Yes.
Wear your white.
Time to show we're a championship fan base, too. That's
Amen.
what this comes down to. Now we're being tested, Aggie fans. Let's pass that test.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Front Row Show. It's whiteout time, so get your white. We condone the wearing of white this week, which is good.
Yes. It's the only time we condone it.
Make it happen. For the Front Row Show, I'm Jeff Browning.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Matt Sonnenberg. Go Aggies!
You want to swear on the mic real quick and we'll get this going?
Hey, Aggie fans, thanks again for listening to this episode of The Front Row Show. Be sure to download all our archived episodes on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at USU Front Row, like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/USU Front Row, and subscribe to us on our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/USU Front Row. Go Aggie!